Hello everyone, welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. In our last episode, we explained how Diablo defeat the army of Falmouth Kingdom and 3 of 7 luminaries. Meanwhile, Diablo successfully assisted Yomu in ascending to the throne. Up to this point, despite some twists and turns, Diablo's plan was accomplished smoothly. In this episode, we shift our focus to Rimuru, explaining how Rimuru led the Monster Federation to a complete victory and became friends with the Demon Lord Luminous. Let's get started. After successfully blocking the blow for Rimuru, Hinata was slowly falling to the ground, her chest pierced by a scorching beam. Rimuru quickly held Hinata and poured a healing potion on her chest, but it had no effect. The Holy Knights beside shook their heads and began to explain that Hinata Sakaguchi's body had a high resistance to magic and would automatically decompose magicules. Therefore, either healing magic nor healing potions would work, as they would be neutralized upon contact with her body. To heal her wounds, only holy magic without the intervention of magicules can be used.
Then don't just stand there. Hurry up and use holy magic.
In his urgency, Rimuru shouted. As if awakened, the Holy Knights started to move. But at this moment, a ring of light bound the Holy Knights, and 2 powerful beings appeared before Rimuru using advanced teleportation magic. They were the elders of the 7 luminaries, and the purpose of their visit had been to discipline Hinata Sakaguchi for acting on her own against orders. Upon seeing this scene, the captain of the Holy Knights, Renard, had angrily accused the 7 luminaries, believing this all to be their conspiracy. The other Holy Knight standing beside him, Guard, had drawn his sword without hesitation and stabbed towards the captain, thinking that it was Renard who was the rebel. As a result, the Holy Knights were plunged into chaos. No one could discern who was telling the truth. Rimuru was somewhat puzzled, but he had no intention of handing over Hinata. At this moment, Diablo had delivered an urgent message. He had revealed the real killer of the Archbishop Rahiam, who turned out to be an elder of the 7 luminaries. Sufficient evidence had been gathered, witnessed by media from various countries around them. Now that the truth was known, there had been no need for Rimuru's side to show mercy anymore. Benimaru and Soyai, who had been surrounding Rimuru, turned to face the 7 luminaries in a combat stance, while Cheyenne on the other side drew her odachi and aimed it at Guard. Realizing their plans had been exposed, the 7 luminaries had unveiled their true nature. What's even more shocking is that from the beginning, Guard was impersonating by one of the 7 luminaries. So the 7 luminaries began to set up a large-scale magic circle, attempting to kill everyone present to eliminate the evidence. Despite Benimaru and Soyai rushing to interrupt the spell, it had no effect. Rimuru had been unable to act as he was fully engaged in maintaining Hinata's life. Soon, the large-scale annihilation magic circle was completed, and rays of death rained down from the sky. Just as Rimuru was growing frantic, a calm and reliable voice had rung out.
Declare, activate the ultimate ability, Beelzebuth, the Lord of Gluttony.
Hearing the Lord of Wisdom's proclamation, Rimuru's arm had transformed into a massive round shield, devouring each ray of death.
Wait, hadn't Beelzebuth, Lord of Gluttony, already sacrificed himself in the fight with Hinata? Why?
Answer, because it was duplicated in advance, so there's no issue.
The Lord of Wisdom had truthfully replied. However, that hadn't been the time to delve into it. Shortly, the 7 luminaries' true attack, Trinity Disintegration, was launched. As the name implies, it was the most powerful holy magic launched by a combined effort of 3 people. In the first battle, Rimuru's clone had been wiped out by a single disintegration. An attack of this scale would have been too much even for Beelzebuth, but the Lord of Wisdom had remained calm, activating the ultimate skill of the Lord of Oath, Absolute Guard. Then a membrane, thin and transparent like a skin layer, had covered Rimuru's body, completely blocking the Trinity Disintegration, effortlessly warding off the attack. This time, not only the 7 luminaries, but even Rimuru himself had been shocked. The Lord of Wisdom explained to Rimuru. During the previous clash of Beelzebuth and Hinata's final attack, the Lord of Wisdom had successfully recognized the movement pattern of the spirit particle, allowing Rimuru to perfectly resist the holy attribute attack using absolute guard. Rimuru finally realized that it was the Lord of Wisdom who intentionally let him take Hinata's strongest attack. To Rimuru's conclusion, the Lord of Wisdom had remained silent, no longer saying more. Just like that, the magic that the 7 luminaries took pride in had been entirely nullified. Benimaru and Soei had begun their move, rushing towards the 7 luminaries, intending to cut them down there. However, at that moment, a chilling voice had echoed.
Rimuru, it seems I've caused you some trouble.
A large door had appeared in the sky, and a beautiful girl with distinctive silver hair and heterochromatic eyes stepped out. It was Demon Lord Luminous. Luminous slowly emerged from the door with Pope Louis following her. Louis declared Luminous' identity to the people present, the goddess of the Western Holy Church. As a result, the knights knelt in unison. The faces of the 7 luminaries turned pale, and they lost their will to fight, trembling like lambs awaiting judgment. Rimuru, however, looked on in confusion, observing the progression of events. Luminous did nothing unnecessary, walking straight to Rimuru and extending her hands to Hinata, softly singing,
Miracle of God, resurrection of the dead.
With the activation of magic, the wound that had pierced Hinata's chest began to heal. The recovery effect was even stronger than Rimuru's healing potion. Soon, Hinata's wound was fully healed, and her consciousness returned. Once everyone had calmed down, Luminous pronounced the sentence on the 7 luminaries, death. The 3 of 7 luminaries pleaded with Luminous, but this wish could not be fulfilled. Luminous spread her arms and gently embraced the 7 luminaries with the invisible hand of God. Filled with godlike compassion, this, however, was a cruel omnipotence that could convert life to death. The 7 luminaries thus painlessly met their end. And thus, the situation shifted towards negotiations on how the 2 countries would coexist in the future. Rimuru returned to Tempest City with Luminous and their group. The first to welcome them was Veldora, the storm dragon who served as the ultimate line of defense. Veldora was a little disappointed with not being able to participate in the action, but upon seeing Luminous behind Rimuru, he blurted out,
Oh, it's you! I remember now. Aren't you the Demon Lord Luminous, whose entire castle I blew away? Ah, it's so refreshing to think about it now.
At that point, Veldora was silenced by a swift stab from a sword Luminous had summoned from nowhere. However, it was too late. Realizing that the deity they had worshipped was actually the evil Demon Lord, the surrounding holy knights were left speechless. Hinata sighed, looking upwards, and began to explain what had transpired to the holy knights and Rimuru. Meanwhile, the storm dragon began a fierce duel in the sky with an angry Luminous. After some time, Veldora fell from the sky and hid behind Rimuru, claiming he had already apologized generously, but Luminous wouldn't listen. Luminous landed from the sky, visibly furious, demanding that Rimuru hand over the lizard. Rimuru felt helpless. Although he knew Veldora was his ally, he also understood that all of this mess was Veldora's fault, and that he couldn't avoid reflection on his actions. So, ignoring the storm dragon's protests, Rimuru seized Veldora by the head without hesitation and handed him over to Luminous. Luminous was visibly surprised for a moment, but soon saw the sinister smile on Veldora's face. Luminous embraced Veldora tightly, and through the effect of her skill, the intense pain and discomfort she felt was directly etched into the storm dragon's soul, allowing Veldora, who was normally immune to pain, to truly feel it. This attack wouldn't kill Veldora, but in some sense, it was even more torturous than death for him, seeking death but not getting it, wanting to live but suffering nonetheless. Veldora wept, pleading for mercy, but Rimuru felt no sympathy. Rather, he thought it was a great bargain to placate Luminous' anger this way. Once the matter was resolved, Luminous, the Holy Knights, and the rest were led by Rigurdo to the city center, where they relaxed through a bath before joining the officials of the Monster Federation for a grand feast. As they sat down, Hinata looked at Rimuru as if she had made up her mind, then bowed slightly to apologize for her and her subordinates' actions. But Rimuru hurriedly stopped her. It was all a misunderstanding, and there was no intention of making a big deal out of it, especially since something even more important had happened. Seeing the open robe, the perky breasts inside seemed exceptionally beautiful and enticing due to the recent bath. Because of the apology, she was slightly bending over, creating an alluring view. The adventurous heart of the cute demon lord couldn't help but stir. However, since his reincarnation, Rimuru no longer had a gender. It's good to have a body that won't nosebleed at such time, Rimuru thought so. By this time, Shuna, who was at his side, stopped serving food and gently greeted the demon lord. Rimuru immediately shook himself awake, quickly brushing off the situation. Hinata nodded in confusion, and thus, the grand feast began. Once they realized that all of this was a conspiracy by the 7 luminaries, the officials and holy knights apologized to each other and declared no further hostilities. Perhaps due to the effects of the fine wine, pleasant conversations between monsters and holy knights could be seen everywhere. The relationship between the two sides grew rapidly. Everyone was smiling, eating delicious food, and having a wonderful night. The next day, the two parties began formal talks. According to Hinata's report, her subordinate Nicolaus Spurtus had killed the last of the 7 luminaries, Gran, the luminary of the sun. As of now, all those who had troubled Rimuru, such as Demon Lord Clayman, the Kingdom of Falmouth, the elders of the 7 luminaries, etc., had been eliminated. Even so, there was still a high possibility of a hidden conspiracy. The moderate Harlequin group, also known as the Death Men group, along with the Eastern merchants and the suspicious Yuki Kagarazaka, all posed potential threats to the Monster Federation and needed to be monitored closely. Following this, the two sides agreed to a resolution. The Western Holy Church recognized the Monster Federation, and in the following 100 years, they would establish diplomatic relations. As for the doctrine of the Western Holy Church, demons are to be killed without mercy, could not be simply abandoned, so an alternate explanation was provided to outsiders. Hinata and Rimuru had fought to a draw, then realized the 7 luminaries' conspiracy, leading to a truce. They also subtly leaked the information that Rimuru, the demon lord, was originally a human from another world, making it easier for the human in this world to accept him. Thus, an agreement with the Holy Empire was signed. From that day on, the Monster Federation became one of the top powers in the world. However, the rapid growth of the Monster Federation would inevitably cause shifts in the world's balance, leading to discontent among the original economic powers. But that's a story for another time. Well, that's the end of this video. That concludes our review of the 7th volume of TenSura. Starting from the next episode, we will begin reviewing the 8th volume, the story of the inauguration ceremony of the Monster Federation. See you next time.